Então, vou passar aqui a palavra para o Tom para explicar, né, a ferramenta dele e como que ela pode ajudar o mercado financeiro e mais especificamente em relações com investidores.
Obrigado, Rodrigo. Obrigado pela ABRASCA por me convidar a falar neste importante evento. Obrigado a B3 por hospedar o evento e meus amigos NetShowMe para live stream. Desculpe meu português. Eu falo inglês para o resto da apresentação. We will be here till dinner time. So I'm going to speak English slowly. I think most of you understand. And the presentation is in Portuguese. So let me begin. I'm going to just go right to what we talked about a little bit. And I'm not going into a lot of details about MIFID2 because I thought Roger did an excellent job in the overview. What I'm going to talk about specifically, and just as Rodrigo said, I've been on the buy side for 15 years. Previous to that, I was on the sell side for many years. So I have both perspectives, both the buy side and the sell side. The impact on MIFID2 for listed companies, whether they be in Brazil or China, is I think pretty significant, because I think when all the things Roger has pointed out, the bottom line is this: the sell side has been shrinking for some time. I'm going to show a chart on that, and will continue to shrink. What does that really mean? What it means is this: as a listed company, the investor relations job, the function of investor relations as part of the overall corporate strategy is going to become more important, much more important, because that as has been pointed out, it is going to be companies. I don't care if it's Petrobras or a small cap company, are going to have to be much more proactive in their dealings with investors, much more proactive. So that either means two things. You can go and hire 15 IR professionals like Petrobras does and Vale does, or you can utilize technology. So I think that given where we are in terms of costs and how I think technology is really the way of the future. Because I think when I visit companies and speak to them, a lot of companies, in fact, a lot of the companies listed here, I've been investing in, or I have invested in over the last 15 years. The one thing you hear now more than anything else is innovation. Everyone talks of innovation, whether it's a real estate company, shopping malls, whether it's a steel company, manufacturing. Innovation is a buzzword that everyone is in technology. So what I want to talk about today eventually is the idea of corporate access, but innovation of corporate access. So let's talk about really about the origins of this. So we're talking about corporate access. Corporate access is really driven by, I say Wall Street, but driven by the banks. The banks have controlled it for many, many years. And the way corporate access has been done, sorry about that, is this way. So it's very simple. Everyone's aware of this. The bank or the middleman, they control the communication between the investor and the company. And really, for the last decades of this communication, it's been really three ways to communicate: conferences, non-deal roadshows, and I think everyone's familiar with these terms, and then what I call field trips, which is people like me coming to São Paulo and making a meeting with my friend Tiago here and having coffee with him for an hour. Everyone knows these, or visiting one of the malls or one of the plants that Gerdau has. So this is the way things have been done for decades, and it hasn't changed. There's been no innovation. So what I want to talk about is the future. And the future, I think, is innovation technology. Companies, again, and I know we're here to talk about MIFID, but I think this has applications even pre-MIFID because of efficiencies and other things. But let's talk about the future. The future is the company and the investors communicating directly. Now, we could talk about the use of phones, etc., and we can, you want to pick up the phone, and if you want to have your IR officers picking up the phone and calling the hundreds of investors that are out there, maybe that's possible. But I think the future is going to be some type of video technology where you can have virtual roadshows, face-to-face meetings, live presentations like this, like we're doing today. This will be available on the website so you can see. So this type of communication is the future. And I'm not saying companies are not going to travel to New York or London. They'll be going to New York, maybe not London, but going to New York once in a while. But the demand from the investment community to having direct contact with investors has always been great. And with the new MIFID2 regulations, it's going to be emphasized even more. One example I can tell you of the second largest emerging market fund globally, which is based in New York, has sent a letter, some of you may have received it already, to all of their portfolio investments all over the world, Brazil, Chinese, what have you, and said to them, going forward, if we're not on your mailing list, if you're not sending us press releases directly, if you're not calling us when you're in town, or you're going to miss out because we are no longer paying the sell side for their services. So there's a lot of stories and a lot of things going on from the buy side perspective that has been going on since the financial crisis, but it's accelerating now. So let's talk a little about innovation. Okay, so what kind of services? What do we do, and what kind of services? So this is not. We are not. I know there are some representatives here from some of the consulting firms. We're not, or I have never been. I'm never going to try to tell you how to do your business as investor relations. This is a pure corporate access. I developed this because of my own needs, to be able to make contact directly with companies, whether they be in Asia, Brazil, Mexico. And to me, it's a really efficient way of making this connection. I've done a lot of research on this business, and I can tell you right now, this is the only platform that is available for listed companies to do this, to make this connection. You can spend $200,000-$300,000 to buy these Polycom video, WebEx, all this very, very expensive equipment. I don't think any CFOs, if they're here or listening, will do that. I mean, that's the alternative. We're using proprietary technology called WebRTC, which it's a peer-to-peer technology. It's not like Skype. It's not like any of these where you have to download applications. It's a pure peer-to-peer technology, very advanced, new and very advanced. Why did I do this? Well, I did it for myself because as a buy-side person, I saw this as a much more efficient way for me to get on a plane and travel to Asia 3 or 4 times a year, to Brazil 3. It's impossible to go everywhere. So if you're doing global, if you're active, it's really, really difficult to make all these trips. And to me, it's a much more efficient way. And obviously there are a lot of efficiencies I will talk about. The goal really is, again, corporate access, to make the connection between you, the company, and the buy-side professional. We want to try to eliminate, not eliminate, but sort of as the sell side contracts, also give an unfiltered view, right? You as the company, a direct understanding, and this is what, as you know, most of you know, the buy-side really wants to hear. I don't want to talk too much about cost savings, but there is a lot of direct and indirect cost savings. This is not a replacement to travel to conferences. What it is, it's an enhancer and an innovation tool to be more efficient. And as I mentioned, I mean, I'm not going to go into, again, this whole MIFID2 because I think it was well thought out and well presented, but this is certainly from the perspective of this MIFID2 regulation, a tool that can be used to be more proactive with investors. So now I'm going to skip right to. Okay, so here, this is an interesting slide just to emphasize that the contraction of the sell side has been happening for quite some time, not just the last 12 months. This has been happening since the financial crisis. The top is the top 12 brokers and number of analysts they have on staff. The other one is budgets. Budgets, headcounts are declining and have been declining for quite some time. MIFID2 is just going to accelerate this decline. I don't think, one of the things I just want to mention from a perspective is that MIFID2 really is going to have a lot of impact. I mean, as you all represent companies, think about this. If you have a company that's selling globally and you're you have two regions, two geographies, one in Europe and one in the U.S., and both of those equal, a lot of revenue. And all of a sudden, half of your revenue base just shrinks dramatically by 50%, 60%, which is really what Roger was talking about. If you're managing a company, what do? Right? So you're a sell side. You're running the equity department of Merrill Lynch or Itaú or Bradesco or J.P. Morgan. All of a sudden, you're seeing half of your revenue base shrink dramatically. Well, it's obvious what you have to do. You have to cut costs some way, and this is what Roger was emphasizing, that the cost, the headcounts and costs are going to have to shrink, meaning the services that they offered for free, which was research and corporate access, that's going to be less. Let's put it that way. I'm skipping around here. Okay, here we go. Okay, so let's just talk about practically from the standpoint how we work with the companies. Some of you have done some demos. Essentially, what we try to do is simulate a virtual one-on-one presentation that you do at a conference, for example. We connect over the cloud. We record content, and that recorded content is produced and then distributed to our investor database. The other part we do is similar to what you do at a conference, where you do a virtual roadshow, where you instead of traveling to the US or London or Europe or LA or Hong Kong, which some of you have done, or Dubai, you can access those investors live through the platform in real time without delay, and they can interact either live or through chat questions. You can access hundreds of investors. And just talk about efficiency. So forgetting about even MIFID2, if you go to an average conference for 2 days, and a lot of you have done that, let's say you see 25 people at most, some one-on-one, some group meetings, etc. And you go back to your country and say, oh, I met 25 investors. Well, the database or the universe of investors that look at Latin American equities is close to 3,700. So if you're satisfied with only having your message out, go to 25 investors, fine. But I think most of you would rather, from an efficiency standpoint, get that message out to many, many more investors. And that's really the essence of this whole idea of creating content and being more efficient with corporate access, to access many, many more investors with the same message. And it could be done over and over. Also a lot of you companies here and listening live stream are all talking about innovation. I'll use Gerdau because everyone's using Gerdau as an example. Gerdau has an interesting innovation concept where they're taking the art of steel making, which people thought was just going to go away or being taken over by the Chinese. They are innovating in all of their plants around the world. How do I show investors that? How does Rodrigo, as the face of the company, be able to show investors how this innovation is going to affect margins down the line? Because he could put the video on the website or whatever, but it'd be nice to proactively show the investors where they can see this innovation happening. So that's just some of the things that can be done. I think the idea of to have maximum penetration of your investor base, because of what we talked about, is going to become very important, because I don't think you can rely on the sell side anymore for, let's say, or what you relied on in the past. As an investor, I can tell you, and you could ask the next investors you meet the same question. How do you value the sell side? And you could ask that. You could have asked that question 5 years ago, and they'll tell you the same thing. It's a necessary evil. The information's okay, but most of it really is not as value added as we liked. So, corporate access, the communication between an investor and the company is going to become much more important. The role of investor relations is going to become much more important around the world, in Brazil, and you have to find the tools necessary to be able to do your job effectively, or you become like Petrobras and hire 15 or 20 IR officers. So I think that's really the alternative, and this is one of the things that we're trying to address with the technology. And I'll just to mention just a couple of ideas, things like quarterly reports. Everyone has to do it. It's required by CVM. I think 5 years from now, many companies will be doing their quarterly events in a live stream. I'm pretty sure. Many U.S. companies are doing it now, and I think many companies around the world will be live streaming their quarterly events because it's just more active. But now, what can a company do? You do this quarterly event. You do 45 minutes, an hour. As a lot of you know, not many people listen to them, but they are important. So why not create some content every quarter after the event to summarize 3 minutes, 4 minutes, and be distributed to investors? And that way, a portfolio manager on demand could watch the content on his iPhone, at home, on the train, see at his desktop in the office. So a lot of these things that I have here are examples of what can be done with what we call on-demand video content. Also, we have a few C-level executives here, CEOs, CFOs, investors want to hear from these executives. How do you get these executives to travel, maybe more than once or twice a year? It's very, very difficult. They have to run the company. So the ability for a CFO or a CEO to be at his desk and communicate, whether it's live or through a recorded message to investors, is very powerful, because this is what, again, investors want to hear. So, I'm gonna go quickly. So to conclude, corporate access certainly has always been important, and as a result of MIFID2 is it going to become more important? The question is, how, as investor relations, do you access this problem? Do you solve this problem? Do you hire more people, or do you use technology? And hopefully you can utilize technology, because I think no matter what, that's going to be, this whole idea of innovation, of corporate access, to me, is the future. So thank you.